What's your 2 cents on the move to bounce Ken Dorsey and put in Joe Brady and what it means, Tom?
There were a lot of layers to that, and I think you saw a lot of those, Rich, kind of come out over the past several days here, whether it was Josh Allen talking about how much Ken Dorsey meant to him and how much it hurt. Joe Brady, his interim replacement, saying, I'm only here because of Ken Dorsey, and I love that guy to death. Sean McDermott did something that you don't always hear, which is, he kind of pulled back the curtain. He said the quiet part out loud when he was addressing reporters later on Tuesday, hours after making that move. And he was repeatedly asked, why? Why did you have to do this? And he said, we're going to be back in that locker room in the stadium in 5 days. And I need players to walk in there knowing something has changed. That's a pretty direct way of saying we can't cut all the players who are dropping footballs and fumbling. We're not going to cut the quarterback who is missing guys who are open around the field and doesn't play like Josh Allen. The one thing you can do at this stage in the season on a team that you still feel is a contender is to try to create a sea change, is move on from the guy calling the plays. And Ken Dorsey, he was respected. He was really liked by players. He's meticulous. He is super smart. There are probably times where, like a lot of young coaches, he doesn't necessarily see the big picture in things in terms of how his offense is playing to the other strengths of the team, the game flow and things like that. But this was not a strict Ken Dorsey issue. If you go back to that game in Buffalo on Monday night, Rich, I find myself asking that next day, if they don't give up those two big passes when you got zero blitz on, and if they don't have a 12th man on the field goal and they just win the game by a point, are you still moving on from Ken Dorsey? This was reactionary. I think that that's objectively true, but it's also a reaction Sean McDermott felt that he had to make. There just was not a lot of energy and juice in that offense. They're hoping Joe Brady is going to give it, and I'll be fascinated to see, given how Joe Brady, all that was said about him coming out of LSU, how smart he was. Remember, he interviewed Rich for like 5 head coaching jobs.
Right.
In that first year in Carolina, even though they weren't good on offense, Matt Rule was really involved in that scheme, all the way down to what a play is called and things like that. Eventually, Matt Rule coming back from the bye week fired Joe Brady. If Sean McDermott is a little bit more hands-off and lets Joe Brady go to work, I'm interested to see what this offense will look like.
Yeah, Brady was the hottest coordinator on the market coming off of the Joe Burrow 60-touchdown season, and he wound up in Carolina, and we were all in the media saying great hire by Matt Rule, and here they go, and we all know what's happened since then. So I'll ask you the question I've been asking a whole bunch of others this week. What is your interpretation of Stefon Diggs' tweet during the game involving his brother and referring to him by his uniform number, needing to get up out of there? What do you make of that one?
I would say this, Rich. The Diggs brothers have mastered the art of saying things that are just cryptic enough on social media that they're going to get a lot of attention. And this wasn't even all that cryptic. This was 14 needs to get up out of there and saying, the quarterback didn't go off until Diggs got there. Those guys, they do like to stir it up. Trayvon's got a lot of time on his hands because he's rehabbing from that torn ACL that he suffered earlier this season. But it's a storyline. Listen, I was sitting in that seat, Rich, with the boys. Hey, what's up to the fellas in studio?
Hey,
Don't want to forget me.
Tom,
I always know.
Yep.
But we were there. I was there this summer when Diggs, remember, wasn't out there the first day of minicamp. And you had this really weird sequence of events where McDermott was explaining things one way, then he had to come back, and then his agent countered all that, and then McDermott had to correct the record. There's been something going on there. The reality was, though, the Bills were never going to trade Stefon Diggs. They couldn't. The cap implications, even if they wanted to, were so great. And he's also, quite frankly, one of your best players, and you need Stefon Diggs on that team right now. I got no doubt that Diggs is frustrated. He's an all-time competitor. His heart is in a good place, but he likes a little bit of the drama sometimes. His brother's stirring it up. I wouldn't expect him to shy away from it, but these sides are together through the course of this season. They got to do their best to try to make a run here. Whether they do or they don't, we'll be talking about Stefon Diggs again come February and March.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.